Hello, today I'm going to report environmental audit or environmental auditing. So what is environmental auditing? Environmental auditing is a process whereby an organization's environmental performance is tested against its environmental policies and objectives. These policies and objectives need to be clearly defined and documented. There are actually different definitions of environmental auditing. For instance, the International Chamber of Commerce defines environmental audit as a management tool comprising a systematic, documented, periodic, and objective evaluation of how well environmental organization, management, and equipment are performing with the aim of helping to safeguard the environment by facilitating management control of environmental practices and assessing compliance with company policies, which would include meeting regulatory requirements. The test carried out in environmental auditing includes questioning, studying documentation, policies, procedures, work instructions, manuals, and other materials that form a part of management systems, and the observation of scenes, processes, and events. An environmental audit is but one of many environmental management tools, so we should not confuse environmental audit with other tools such as environmental impact assessment. Although environmental audit and environmental impact assessment have similarities, EIA is used actually or is implemented before a project is carried out. So in other words, this is an ex-ante assessment, EIA. It attempts to predict the impact on the environment of a future action, while environmental auditing is carried out when a project is actually happening or being conducted, or the the project is in place. And this is used, environmental audit is used to check on existing practices, assessing the environmental effects of current activities, among others. To understand the development of the concept of environmental auditing, first we need to look in more detail at the relationship between organizations and the environment within which they operate. So, in some cases, an organization or project or industry have direct effect on its environment. I mean the activities of an organization. For example, the accidental spillage of oil from the refinery may cause pollution of a water course. Um, uh, the emission released from the oil refineries stack can cause local air quality, can degrade local air quality, and the consumption of water and energy by a particular project or industry. It also some in other cases, the effect of the industry or project are indirect. For example, the environmental impact of the finished product of plants such as petrol or plastics, the traffic generated by the employees of the oil refinery, which can contribute to pollution on local roads, and the waste produced after the end of the product's life. There are different types of environmental audits. First, the environmental management audits. These are audits which are specifically designed to check and evaluate the effectiveness of environmental management systems. Sound environmental management at a site or in an operation depends upon procedures, work instructions, guidelines, specification, training programs, and monitoring systems being implemented by the employees of the organization operating on the site. The environmental compliance audits. The environmental compliance or performance audits are specifically designed to test compliance of an industry or project or plans to environmental policies, objectives, laws, bylaws, ordinances, regulations, and standards. It covers both legal compliance and corporate compliance. Examples of this audit includes the compliance of a business or industry with requirements in water and air permits and licenses, or even sanitary permits. The environmental assessment audit. An environmental assessment audit is an instrument used to assist in environmental impact assessment, quality control, and to make sure that the EIA conducted before the project has started has complied with the minimum legal requirements and due legal process has been followed when the project is already being implemented. Waste audit. Waste audits are environmental audits which specifically look at the waste management component of an operation or site. In such audits, the various aspects of waste management would be reviewed and the methods, procedures, and systems checked and verified. Environmental due diligence audits. Environmental due diligence audits are described in different ways but are essentially audits which look at the actual and potential environmental liabilities of a site or operation. They are most commonly carried out as a precursor to the purchase of property, which has been or is likely to be used for industrial or commercial purposes. Often, they form a part of a wider financial due diligence audit, which looks at the various business risks associated with the purchase of property. The last one is the supplier audits, and this audit is carried out by a client to test the environmental compliance of a contractor or supplier. It should be an audit using the environmental conditions included in the contract documents. In the absence of any specific conditions, it could be an audit of the supplier's environmental management system with special reference to the client's business. So, environmental audit is actually based from the international agreement or law known as the Earth Summit or the UN Conference on Environmental Development, which was conducted in Rio de Janeiro in 1992. This summit reinforced the importance of increased emphasis on environmental issues in every sector of the economy, and Agenda 21 of this summit contains a chapter on the role of business and industry in securing sustainable development. So, in the Philippines, a lot of efforts were also done to implement environmental audit in the country. One of the landmark law is the resolution introduced by Senator Lauren Legarda, which direct the Senate Committee on Environment and Natural Resources to lead the conduct of environmental audit of relevant national agencies and local government units in relation to their compliance to existing environmental laws. This resolution aims to determine the state of implementation and enforcement of the country's environmental laws and policies. Measurable indicators and targets were set to encourage accountability of all government officials. This is due to the fact that despite numerous environmental laws that the country adopted, the state of the Philippine environment continues to be on the decline. For instance, the Food and Agriculture Organization estimates that forest area in the country has declined from 12 million hectares in 1960 to only about 5.7 million hectares currently. And the United Nations Environment Program World Atlas of Coral Reefs reported that 97% of reefs in the Philippines are under threat. So hopefully the conduct of environmental audit can identify areas of environmental policy reform, institute metrics to ensure accountability, and promote the efficient use of public funds in the implementation of our environmental laws. The Department of Environment and Natural Resources also attempted to come up with an administrative order that establishes the system and parameters for the environmental impact assessment audit. Unfortunately, I think this law was not implemented. I mean, this order was not implemented because the proponent of this law is former Secretary Gina Lopez, which was not accepted which was not confirmed as Secretary of DNR. But this administrative order aims to conduct audit of environmental compliance certificates issued for projects, whether environmentally critical projects or environmentally critical areas. The audit is supposed to be undertaken to ensure the adequacy and efficiency of the mitigating measures as committed in the Environmental Impact Assessment Report, identify the gaps in the proponent's environmental management plan and address them accordingly, review the report's issuances, recommendations of the multi-party monitoring teams in accordance with the EIA and DCC, determine the existence of other impacts and risks to health, livelihood, and labor, and to determine the regularity of ECC issuance and any gaps, errors, or lapses in the process and technical review. The Department of Interior and Local Government also monitors the compliance of local government units with various environmental laws, especially on waste management, through the Environmental Compliance Audit. So that's my report on environmental audit. Thank you for listening.